In Google Ads, we already know how important competitor analysis is. It gives you great insight into the movers and shakers in your industry, who's spending the money and who potentially is getting the market share. However, do you know how to specifically understand who is bidding on your keywords and crossing over with your campaign? Well, we're going to take a look at the Auction Insights report in this video, because that report gives a ton of data as to the behavior of your competitors and whether or not you can beat them on the search results page. So we're going to break down this report and understand how we can actually go ahead and enhance that report in Microsoft Excel as well. So there's a bit of a tutorial at the end of the video too, so you're going to learn all of that and more coming up. Hey guys, Darren Taylor of thebigmarketer.com here, and my job is to make you a better marketer. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm Darren Taylor, a digital marketing trainer and consultant. I specialize in search engine marketing, so SEO and PPC, and I provide tips and tutorials you can put in place today. If that sounds like something of interest to you, you should consider subscribing to the channel. And in this video, we are looking at Google Ads and specifically breaking down the report that shows you which competitors are bidding on the same keywords that you are. It's called the Auction Insight Report, and we're going to take a look at the value you can get from this report and understand how to use it to inform your PPC strategy. First of all, it makes sense to touch on what the Auction Insights Report is. It's a report in Google Ads under the keyword section of the system that shows you specifically all of the competitor domains bidding on keywords that you're bidding on within your campaigns. So when you click into a campaign, take a look at this report within keywords. It will show you all of the domains that have currently been bidding on keywords that you're targeting and showing for the same searches that you are targeting over a set period of time. So of course you define your time period, and that will give you the insights you need into who is bidding on your terms. However, the report is better than that because it also gives you a number of metrics you can use to understand how competitors are behaving as well. You can see the outranking share of your competitors. You can understand the impression shares relative to your own campaigns as well. You can understand how aggressive competitors are being absolute top of the page or in the top section of the page, and really understand within a given period of time how your competitors are performing. But how can you use this data? Well, if you notice a competitor is getting more and more crossover with your campaign and becoming higher up in impression share and overlap rate with your data, then you know that competitor is targeting exactly or even getting closer to the type of audience that you want to target. And when that is happening, you really need to check out your competitors. When you see this happening, head over to your competitor's website, take a look at their deals, their offers, their proposition, because ultimately it's the same audience they're targeting as yours. If they're becoming more aggressive, it's because they're seeing some kind of success or they're trying to experiment with something new. If you're seeing a consistent pattern where competitors aren't bidding more and things are pretty much the same as they've always been, then that will give you an insight to tell you that things are pretty much the same. However, if they are getting more ambitious and competitors are spending more money, their impression shares increasing, you need to take a look at their website. And the question here is, how do you react as a business to a competitor who becomes more ambitious? Or maybe there's a new player in town, there's a new competitor who's come into the business, into your sector, and they're really spending a ton of money on Google Ads. What are you meant to do as a business? Well, first of all, please don't think it's a pricing war. Don't forget your cost per acquisition, don't forget your business metrics, don't forget the reason you started Google Ads in the first place, which is of course to build profitable business. And if you're going to push your cost per clicks to a certain level or increase your budget to a certain level where your campaigns are no longer profitable, it doesn't make sense to beat your competitors, because you might beat them in the auction, but you're ultimately going to lose as a business. So what you really need to do is, if the market is increasing and you need to still get some visibility, you need to look at your own proposition. What can you do to beat your competitors? You really need to highlight that in your campaigns. I've already made a video on how to write killer text ads that get the best results on the search results page. I've linked to that for you below as well, so check that video out too. But it's all about your proposition. What can you offer the customer above and beyond your competitors, and how can you promote that within your text ads and then reinforce that on your page? Because ultimately, when this price war begins on the search results page with your competitors, you need to find a way to win. But don't overreact. If you're seeing a competitor suddenly start spending more money and maybe you're losing a little bit of impression share, keep an eye on it. Don't necessarily react in a knee-jerk way, because your competitors might be experimenting with something that might ultimately fail. They might be becoming more ambitious and trying to push things, but ultimately it might not work for them. So maybe within a week they drop their budget down again, and in fact, because they spent so much in that short period of time, it might have hurt them as well. So that's important to note too. One thing this report doesn't do is it doesn't show you trends over time. It shows you the results in a set time period. So I build a hybrid of this report in order to inform my campaigns, and I'm going to share that data with you right now. But before I do that, if you like what you're hearing so far, don't forget to hit the like button below. And also, question of the day is, are you analyzing your competitors on the search results page? And if not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Now on to the tutorial of how to use this report and make it show trends over time. Okay, so here I am in Google Ads, and I'm going to navigate to a specific campaign. So when you guys do this, navigate to the campaign you want to do your competitor analysis with the Auction Insights report for. So let's click on a campaign here. I'm going to select business electricity as my campaign. Now you've done that, head over to keywords and then go onto the Auction Insights report. And that will pull together the reports of all of the competitors within a given period of time who have been bidding on the same keywords in your campaign as you have. In terms of the auction being triggered, they will be bidding on the same terms you are. So you can see all the websites that have crossed over with yours. In this particular report, you will see 19 websites in total, including our own domain here. So when you pull this up for your campaigns, you'll see all of your competitors in this area. Now, of course, with this report, all you can see is this data over a set period of time. And I guess what you could do is, say, for example, I want to look at November's data in terms of what competitors were doing. If I hit apply, the report will update and I can make note of who's actually changed position. This, however, is a difficult way to do things, and it would make more sense to create a report using this data that you can update weekly or monthly or whichever intervals you need to show you how competitors are behaving. I would advise this should be one of your weekly PPC tasks. It doesn't take too long. The initial setup takes a little while, but once you get going, it should be quite easy. What we're going to do is build a report in Excel that will show us the trends of our competitors over time. To get the process started, think of the first start date you want to use for this report. I'm going to pick a date in August, for example, maybe even September. Let's use September as an example. And I'm going to do it on a weekly basis starting on a Monday. So I'm going to look at the 3rd of September through until the 9th as my first week of data. So when I do that and hit apply, my report will update appropriately. Now what I'm going to do is download the data from this report to start things off. So I'm going to click this download button and export this report as an Excel CSV. So now that I've exported this report, when I open it, you will see it pretty much reflects exactly what was on the previous page in terms of all of these competitors and including our own website too. So you'll see here, you'll have impression share under 10%, and you've also got all of the actual impression shares over 10%. Google Ads doesn't show any impression share data under 10% specifically because it's too small a sample, so we can ignore that quite comfortably. What we need to do here is we need to add dating to this data. We know our date range here, so I'm going to add a column to this report, and I'm going to call it week commencing. And this will allow us to add a date to show which week this report begins, because what we're going to do is we're going to do the same process over and over again, downloading data week by week for a given period of time, and then we're going to timestamp that data with a week commencing column, and then we're going to add it to a pivot table to see the data over time. So we know this report begins on the 3rd of September 2018, so I'm going to type in 3rd of the 9th 2018, and I'm going to copy this date across all of our cells. So I've copied it a couple of times, but once you've done that, all you need to do is highlight it, hover over the corner, and drag it down in line with this report. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete these two rows here, because they're not very useful for us. We've got our data set. It's been timestamped with the week the data began, and I'm going to repeat this process until we have a good amount of data, maybe looking at 5 or 6 weeks of data over time, so we can start to spot some trends in the data. So I'm going to come back And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to download another data set and add it to this one. Let me show you how to do that first. So now I've done the 3rd to the 9th of September. I'm going to do the 10th to the 16th and hit apply. And that's done here. That's updated the report. I'm going to download this data set again as an Excel CSV, which is downloading now. I'm going to open this report, which will open in addition to the one we've got already. I'm simply only this time going to select the data in the download we've just done because it's the next week, as you can see, the 10th to the 16th. I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to paste it in underneath this one here. So now we've got another week of data, and all I'm going to do here is update this data set with the beginning of this week, which, as you'll see here, is the 10th of September. So we go back to this report, change this date to the 10th, and I'm going to add it to all of the data set here. So again, create 2 of the duplicate dates, and then drag it down to complete the data set. So now I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it for another 5 weeks of data. So we're going to see 5 weeks worth of competitor data timestamped by week within this report. So I'm going to come back quickly and show you guys the completed report. Okay, so I've completed the exercise now, and I've downloaded the data week by week, populating the week commencing column with the given week's first date. So you'll see there's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks or so of data I've added to this report. Now, this is the raw data. However, we need to tidy this up a bit because there's a few things in here that might cause issues because some of these fields in this data set aren't actually numbers or completely numbers. So we need to fix that. So what I'm going to do is any cell containing the under 10% symbol here, like the less than 10% symbol, I need to just change that to 10%. We have to just accept the fact that Google Ads doesn't show us specifically what the impression share is of our competitors under 10%. So we'll just have to minimize that. So let's change all of this data set. In fact, I'll select all of the data set, do a Control F to find replace greater than space 10%. And then we'll replace that with just 10%. And then I'll replace all, and that's done. So that's tidied one part of it up. The second part we need to tidy up is this part here where we've got blank cells that just contain 2 dashes. So what we're going to do for these ones is change those to 0. Now, most of the time you'll see this is obviously because it's our own data we're referencing. So it's not that important, but I think we'll just make sure we tidy that up as well and ensure that for all of the data set, we get rid of those 2 dashes. So let's do that now as well. Another Control Find, replace 2 dashes, replace with 0%, and replace all. And that's done. So now the data is clean. We've got all the data in the same format, which is a percentage. Just make sure the decimals are in the same format too. So what I'm going to do is do a quick increase and decrease of decimals and fix that. So now what we need to do is put this into what's called a pivot table. So I'm going to select the entire data set by clicking on the heading title here. Hold Shift and Control and press down. Keeping Shift and Control held, press right, and I've selected the entire data set here. Then I'm going to go through to Insert and Pivot Table, and I'll start it in a new tab completely. So now we've got our pivot table building tool. Let's start actually planning how to spread this data out and show trends over time within the data. So first of all, we have our domain URL. Let's make this a column in the report. Sorry, a row in the report. So these are all of our URLs. So that's a row in the report. We'll make the impression share the values in the report. Now this will show in decimal format and it's the sum, so it's totaled. We need to change that because impression share is an average value. So we don't want them to add all of the impression shares up, we want them to average out. So let's go down here, click on some of impression share where this little arrow is, go to value field settings and change that to an average. That's better. So everything should be under 1 because 1 in a percentage means 100%. So let's change that to a percentage format like this. And let's increase the decimal places. And that will give us, for the whole data set we've downloaded, the average impression share for each of our competitors and ourselves as well. Now, how do we segment this by the date? We have the week commencing section here as well. So what we need to do with the week commencing is drop this in under rows. So now we've dropped that in, we can see we've added the week commencing and it's broken down automatically into specific months, and you can expand those to show the specific weeks and the impression shares thereof. However, what you might want to do, in fact what we're going to do, is remove this filtering where it's broken down by month. We're going to right click and we're going to click on ungroup. And that's the raw dates in terms of the start date of the week for each of these competitors. So we've got the data showing all of our competitors' impression shares over time. Okay, so let's say for argument's sake you want to visualize this data, because this is quite difficult to interpret, even broken down when we ungroup the cells as well. So we can see the week commencing and we can break it down, but what if you wanted to visualize this data? Well, to do this, you would need to create what's called a pivot chart, and this will allow us to see visualized data from our raw data, which is in this tab here. So in order for us to do that, just select any cell and go to Insert, Pivot Chart, and then click Pivot Chart. It's going to ask you to select the table or range, and in order for us to do that, head back to your data set and then select all of the data in your data set, including the titles. Select all the data and then hit OK. So this will allow us to build our chart. Our chart's going to show here. I'm going to move this out the way a little bit and make it bigger as well, because this is where our data is going to show in our chart. So let's start building the report. When you click inside the pivot table builder, this will allow you to build the report. So let's start dragging some of these areas into the report. So we know that the week commencing is going to be one of the rows in the report, so we'll drag that into rows. Again, we will ungroup this to show the full data set. We know the domain display URL, we need that to be a column in the report. So now we're seeing here there's going to be a colored legend here on the right hand side showing the data, and on the bottom you're going to have the trend over time in the report with the week commencing. So as the week progresses, you'll see these companies here will be able to be seen in this chart. Now that's the chart so far. We still need to make sure that all of our data is visualized as a percentage. So I'm going to drag impression share into the values and you'll see what happens. It's built the report to show you over time all of our competitors and all the websites that are bidding on the same keywords we are, but again, it's still not quite ready yet. This report needs a bit of work. So first things first, we need to change the impression share from a sum into an average again, because of course we don't want to add up the number of impression share every single week. We want to average that out. So instead of a sum, we'll go down the same route and make that an average. And that's changed it so that it's a percentage. And now we just need to make sure that all of the numbers in this report are a percentage, and we'll increase that to 2 decimal places. So that's in place now. They're all percentages. And the next thing we need to do is change the type of chart this is. So at the moment it's a bar graph, which doesn't really show us much of a story. If we go to design, you can change the chart type up here to a line, and that will show us, when you hit OK, the trends in impression share over time. So you'll see all of your competitors. There's a lot of lines here because you have a lot of competitors, and I'd imagine your campaigns would look similar to this. But the great thing about pivot charts is you can focus the data down. So say for example, this is our line here. The gray line is our own business in this particular example. So in this scenario, what I will do is, just to show that that's our business, let's start off with just highlighting that. Your business will be called you. So this is our business over time on the search results. You'll see the impression share has been between 97%, as low as 93%, and as high as 97%. Say for example, we want to see more of our competitors. Now I did see a competitor who had a massive spike in impression share followed by a dip. Let's see who that was. It was bulb.co.uk. So say I want to compare our impression share to Bulb's specifically over time, and I hit OK, that's going to show us this data. You'll see here our impression share has been consistently higher. We had a high spike here, but then we came offline. The campaign stopped. And at the same time, our nearest competitor who was climbing to our impression share also dropped their campaign to nearly nothing as well, to below 20% impression share. Now, the reason could be industrial. It could be something happened in the industry. Maybe conversions died a death, which is why this campaign stopped abruptly. That doesn't continue on. And then this campaign looks like they were accelerating to similar to our impression share, and then they started coming down as well. So that tells a story in itself. So you can start to understand when you select all of your competitors, if you spot a line you can see and you use this key as an indication to see which competitors are doing anything, you could potentially look at this and think, okay, which competitor should I analyze? Which one looks like they're doing quite a lot of, I guess, bidding or increasing their bids over time? You can see this green line here has been increasing consistently since the beginning of this report. So that's Energy HQ when you look at the colors. So for us to look at this report, what we need to do is filter this down. In fact, I think it might actually be npower, but let's put both of them in place anyway, because the more competitors you have, the harder it is to read the colors in the key. But not to worry, let's do both of those. We will add npower and Energy HQ and compare those with our data. So let's unselect all. Let's make sure we're highlighted. Let's find npower. There's Energy HQ and npower is here. And we'll hit OK. So it's definitely npower. So npower here has been increasing their impression share over time, and then they've consistently hit the plateau here where they're quite happy with what they're doing. They're not continuing to increase. Now, if you saw them continuing to increase, that will infringe on our impression share a lot more, and it will make things cross over with our campaign a lot more as well. But of course, you can see we stopped advertising at this point. So the idea is you want to build this report with your campaigns, understand how your competitors are moving, and then use this data set to inform your decisions in your campaigns and who to keep an eye on, and keep an eye on your competitors to make sure they're not infringing on your impression share. And if they are, you need to take a closer look at their website, at their proposition, because they might be getting more aggressive with their advertising. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like below. Let me know in the comments the answer to my question of the day, which is, are you using this report currently, the Auction Insights report, to get insights on your competitors? Let me know in the comments below. Apart from that, don't forget to subscribe, check out the other content across my channel, and I'll see you guys on my next video.